What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I want to talk about what is Black History Month. Now, just give a little brief history. Right, Black History Month, or it's also known as National African American History Month, was started by a man named Carter G. Woodson. If those who don't know, Carter G. Woodson is the author and historian, activist, and he's known for writing the famous book Miseducation of the Negro. For those who don't know that book, you need to go get that book and read it thoroughly. It's a very good book, Miseducation of the Negro. Okay, when he actually was the creator of what we call Black History Month. However, it was not called Black History Month when he made it. It was called Negro History Week, and it was simply when a certain time was set. Back then it was a week. Now it's a month. Certain time when a certain time was set so that America and the world over, but especially in the United States of America, should, would recognize the achievements of African Americans in American history. However, those individuals would go unnoticed. You see, back then, during his time and before, many accomplishments and many achievements were made by African Americans. However, due to the time, due to the time, whether it be racial, political, social, all these things, when a black person would do something, they would hardly, or if ever, get any kind of recognition or compensation for their work. Many of the accomplishments or many of the inventions that were made in America, a lot of them were made by African Americans. However, you don't know that because there was a concerted effort to have those names not even written out of the books, but actually just not entered into the history books so they could be recognized. And this went on for a long time, for centuries, to be honest with you. And Carter G. Woodson decided to say, okay, you know what? How about we set aside a time where we can recognize these figures, these names, these hidden figures. See how I did that there? These hidden figures, and just put them to the forefront so they won't be forgotten in history. So people won't just think that only one group of people did all these accomplishments. They wanted the world to know, and mainly this country to know, that we were just more than just slaves. See, for a certain period of time, the only thing people could think of when they thought about people that looked like me were, okay, you were slaves. That had it not been for the white man taking you out of the jungles of Africa, you would have been uncivilized. Well, that's actually not true. It's actually not true. Very not true. When we were brought here, we were stripped of our knowledge, our culture, our worship ceremonies, our food, our language, and we were given something else that did not belong to us, and we were taken out of our right mind. Okay, and this happened for hundreds of years. Okay, now because of this stripping and the laws being put in place in this country, whenever we would do something of great accomplishment, great achievement, or prominence, we would never get the recognition that we rightfully deserved. And when you do something like that, you take away the confidence of a people to the point where they think that they don't think that they can actually ever achieve anything great, because all they know is you're nothing. You're not intelligent. You're not brilliant. You're not smart. All they know, all the people know, is when you strip them of that mind, you put them in a state of servitude, mental and physical servitude. So again, the time that was a particular time in February was set where back then it would be a week. So Kaji will say, okay, let's take a week to recognize the accomplishments of our hidden African American figures, men and women, because it wasn't just it wasn't just African American men that were just being pushed out of history. More so, African American women that were being pushed out of history. Like, they really didn't get a chance. That's why a movie like Hidden Figures is so powerful, because we know that a lot of African American men were done wrong, but more than that, African American women were done even worse. Even worse. So that's the significance of this particular month. So it went from a week to a month. So we got African American month. February is Black History Month, or National African American History Month. And it wasn't in every, if I'm not mistaken, every president since 1976 has designated February as the month, which means that it can be changed to January, March, on up to December, but it's been chosen since 1976 for February. Now, the significance of it is, to be honest with you, that's just, everybody knows that, we've done more than that we've done so much that you can't really just put it inside of a month. You can't. You can't put it inside of a month. We've done way too much to be put into a month. Everybody knows that. It was just a observation. Now, the thing is, when you deal with African American, we deal with Black History Month. My issue with it is, if you're going to talk about Black History Month, whether it be African Americans here in this country or across the world, you would have to think, okay, how come? Well, when I was growing up, I was going to school. When February came around, we always talked about Black people that came after slavery, after emancipation, or after 1865, which is the year of emancipation. Okay, when the slaves were freed, quote unquote freed, 1865, after the Civil War. Every time we talk about that, every time we talk about Black History Month, we always talk about after slavery, but we hardly ever talk about the times before slavery, the times before Jamestown, Virginia, 1619. What happened? What were we doing in parts of the world prior to the transatlantic slave trade? What were we doing? And that history is even more shut out than the history we have in this country. Because if you really want to talk about Black History Month, let's talk about Black History Month. Let's talk about that. Now, the farthest back you'll go when you talk about Black History Month, you talk about either the Moors in 711, the conquering of Spain, okay? But then you go right back to 1492, Queen Isabella Ferdinand kicking the Moors out. You never really talk about the middle part. You never talk about the math and science that these Africans, Northern Africans, gave to the Spanish, or the Spaniards. So from 711 to 1492, Spain, or Al-Andalus, was not just Spain, but Spain, Portugal, the majority of Southern Europe was ruled by the Moors. Some of the popes back then were black. We hardly ever talk about Hannibal Barker. We never talk about him. We never talk about the scientific advancements of Africans across the world. We hardly ever talk about here. Let's talk about here in America. Let's talk about the Americas. Let's keep it in the Americas. We hardly ever talk about the Olmecs. You ever seen them big stone heads? The big stone heads in I think it's in Mexico. The Olmecs. We hardly ever talk about them. We hardly ever talk about the Toltecs. We hardly ever talk about them. If you want to talk about, let's talk about some real black history prior to the transatlantic slave trade. We hear the name Mansa Musa. We hardly ever talk about Mansa Musa. We hardly ever talk about Hatshepsut, a female king. Now, when you look her up, they always say a queen pharaoh. No, not a queen pharaoh. A pharaoh, or the proper name, Nesut. That was not a queen. That was a king. King is one who is in primary position or a primary ruler of a land. Hatshepsut was a primary ruler of a land. She was not a queen. She was a pharaoh, a Nesut, a king. You never hear about that. And not only that, there were other female kings. Think about that. And now nowadays, we hear the word female and king, you have a cognitive dissonance. When you think of female, you think queen. No, that's not always the case. Now, when you're talking about African or black history, the term king takes on a different connotation. King is a primary ruler. Primary ruler. Primary meaning one only ruler. Okay, that's what king is. In Africa, there were plenty of female kings, not female queen pharaohs or female queen rulers. No, no, no. Female kings. And they don't talk about how a lot of civilizations in Africa were matriarchal, which means the power went through the woman, not the man. Let's talk about that. Let's see that. So we understand that. Big Mama was the ruler. The same way how we have in our culture, how, the father is powerful, but Mama ruled. Play this. Mama, the woman, ran the house. The man ruled the house. Did you hear what I said? The women ran the house. The men ruled the house, which meant that in order for the man to rule, the woman had to run the house, had to run the society. That if she is off, it has a bigger effect. Like we always say, if you teach a man, you teach an individual. If you teach a woman, you teach a nation. Why? Because the woman gives birth to the next king, queen, drug dealer, basketball player, whoever. Whoever comes into this world to rule or to damage comes through the woman. Yes, the man plants the seed. We all know that. But the significance of the woman bearing the child and giving birth to the next. The cure for cancer will come through a woman. Put it like that. The cure for every disease will come through the womb of a woman. The individual, male or female, who will finally be the first one to land on Mars, will come through a woman. Think about that. The next billionaire will come through a woman. Think about that. And that significant role of motherhood in a lot of African cultures, that put a lot of the power in the hands of the woman. So a lot of societies were matriarchal. Excuse me. So, but it wasn't like, okay, well, the woman rules, so the man just shut out. No, that's not the case. It's just it's equal levels, but different roles. Okay, the roles are different, but the power is equal. Just like in chess. Even though the goal is to trap the king. Once you trap the king, it's called checkmate. However, the most powerful piece is the queen. Okay? The king has limited roles, but if you catch him, it's checkmate. But the queen can move wherever, and she's the most powerful piece. You see that? Different roles, same power. You lose either one, you have an issue. So back to this. The significance in Black History Month was to reconnect the people that were stripped of that history when they were taken from their homeland and brought here and then totally mentally reconfigured. Black History Month is to bridge that gap. It's to bridge the gap between your historical your historical significance and your present day situation. So you can never think that, okay, I am just a person who was, all I know is my people were slaves. That's a lot. It's a lot of what people know. Oh, my great grandfather grandmother were slaves. That's all I know. I don't know my family history. Well, this month is supposed to bridge that gap. Now, yes, you could just go say, okay, well, you take the entire year to learn about your history, learn about your family tree, and see what kind of significance you come from. Because if all you know is that I'm nothing mentally and physically, then all you're gonna do is perpetuate that. But if you were told that not only are you great, but you have a history, not only in your family, but people that look like you have a history of being some of the greatest that have ever walked this planet. That without you or your family or people who look like you, this particular country would shut down immediately. Let's just do a hypothetical. Let's do a hypothetical. All right. Let's do a thought process, a thinking process. Let's say somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, why don't you and all your people go back to Africa, where you came from?" One, that would admit that you were taken, that you weren't here originally, that you were taken from somewhere and brought here. And or for someone to say go back to, you have to come from. Okay. Let's just say someone says, "Hey, why don't you and your people go back to Africa?" And then what she say? You say, "You know what? Okay, fine. Me and my people will go back to Africa. However, everything that my people have invented, we're taking with us." Let me do that again. Someone comes to you and say, "Hey, why don't you go back to Africa where you came from?" And you respond, "Okay, I'll go back to Africa with me and my people. And while we're doing that, we are going to take everything that we invented with us, and we're taking it back to Africa." Imagine how empty this country would be. Traffic lights, gone. Rubber tire, gone. Gas mask, gone. Broom dustpan, gone. Mailbox, gone. Elevator, gone. Don't look so good, and I do it. That, and trust me when I tell you, I didn't even scratch the surface of all the stuff we invented that you know about and that you don't know about. I didn't even scratch the surface. But just imagine you going back to Africa with you and your people and taking everything that you invented with you. If your people had a hand in inventing it, you take it with you. Light bulb, gone. Oh crap, that's a problem. A whole lot of car crashes, huh? Yeah, that's a problem, man. Yeah, just imagine that. That's the significance that you have in terms of your black history. Right? I just want to drop that on y'all. Hit y'all with a little something. Hope y'all enjoy it. Catch you all later. Peace.